to order. In the City Hall Community Room, it's Wednesday, August 20th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Roll call.
Detmer. Here. Reed.
Here.
Comberg.
Here.
McSweeney.
Here.
Moss.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
Robson.
Here.
Wilmot.
Here.
All right, approval of minutes for June 16th. I do have a request for whoever's gonna post this, that on page 2. The second to the last paragraph starts with Mr. Angeli. On the last long line, third line down, the landlord was not addressing it. That could be reported it to the city. So it needs to be deleted.
Yeah, I didn't understand that sentence. The city code shall be reported. What does that mean?
First sentence of what?
That same paragraph, Mr. Angeli responded that some code enforcement issues to zoning and some do not, but that all city code what? Issues, violations, isn't there a word?
Is which page is this on?
Same paragraph, just same paragraph.
City code violation, page 2, violations.
Okay. All I got.
Oh, there it is. Anything else?
I move to accept this to the minutes.
Or
Okay, Charlie makes the motion, Rick seconds, all in favor of passing, aye. Aye. Okay, everyone said aye and raised their hand. All right. New business, pre-application discussion regarding Crestview, the Crestview PUD and U-Haul, and we have John Gilmore, who's the president of the U-Haul Northern Michigan, and Jeff Stefani, district vice president.
Correct.
Right. Don?
yes, there's an attached memo in the packet. The two gentlemen have visited City Hall twice the last couple of years regarding the potential to use the former Kmart for a U-Haul facility. And at the last meeting, with Lisa and we suggested that if they would like, they can come and present information to the planning commission, hear any planning commission's concerns prior to the, if they then want to proceed with a formal application to modify and amend the PUD. The planned unit development for the property includes, if approved, for mixed-use commercial, bank office, office research, and multifamily residential. It does not allow for warehousing or storage. That would require a change in the PUD underlying plan as a major amendment, which will go before the PC and eventually to city council. So the reason for the meeting is kind of exploratory. They want to present what their thoughts are for the property. It's your opportunity to ask some questions. Based on your feedback, they can make a decision if they want to proceed or not. So I think they had a PowerPoint or no?
I mean, within the pack that we
Within the
submitted,
pack.
there was,
Right. And everyone had a chance to look at that, so we don't have to repeat that.
okay, good. So that pretty much is our, somewhat of a presentation in regards to that. As John has indicated, we have met with John twice now, just discussing the former Kmart there. If you got a chance to look this over, you see that we've done this type of reuse of a building, specifically a Kmart, 100 times across the nation here. Specifically in the nearby areas, we've done Sault Ste. Marie, the former Kmart there is now a U-Haul facility. Houghton Lake, the former Kmart there is a U-Haul facility. Manistee is a U-Haul facility. Escanaba, Byron Center, all across the state. We've repeated this in numerous similar situations where we have taken over, a dark property, an old Kmart. They're very difficult to fill. There's not a lot of retailers that want to take on that kind of square footage. they're good buildings, they're solid buildings, you know, it definitely from a reuse standpoint, you know, from a ecological standpoint of reuse of a building rather than allow that to be tore down and rebuilt and let that kind of infill go into a landfill. We've managed to reuse these very effectively to the benefit of the communities that we operate in. We've been looking for an opportunity up here in Petoskey for quite some time. We have wanted to be in town here, and when the Kmart shut down, you know, some years ago now, we had talked to the ownership. We had started the ball kind of rolling. Big Lots kind of took a part of the building, and you know, they thought they might be able to lease out the other half. They were unsuccessful for some years, and then obviously Big Lots has gone under. They're somewhat in a resurrection. We'll see if that takes or not, but you know, they have no plans to reopen back up here, and the ownership has not been able to lease out this space subsequent to the loss of Big Lots, and they had the other portion of the building for lease for some years without success. So what we're offering is essentially, if you got a chance to look at the packet, is a similar situation where we would take this dark building, we would revitalize it, we would, you know, clean up the imaging a little bit on the building, brand it a little bit, you all keep it very, it looks nice. It's a nice looking building now. So we're not really looking to change a whole lot there, but we would turn this into a nice benefit to the community, climate control storage, retail box showroom with moving supplies of all kinds. You know, when we talked to Lisa and John, you know, the idea of having a full run rental facility there where we'd have our trucks and trailers, we very much would like to have it there, but there are some obstacles in terms of where we would be able to position the equipment. We're open to the idea of still doing the full run center, but we're again here today to sort of talk to you folks as to what your opinions are on this. With us taking over that building there and potentially doing a full run U-Haul facility there, or what other options we might be able to come up with you guys. So we don't want to waste anybody's time here tonight, but we definitely appreciate you giving us a chance to talk to us. We're 85, 80 years open as a company, run by World War II veterans. That's who started us out. You know, same family that started us is the same family that runs the business now. When U-Haul comes into a community at large, we don't leave. We wouldn't come in and then leave this place. You know, we wouldn't change this and then take off. We don't close down. We've been in this for 80 years, and we intend to be in this for another 80 years and beyond. So we're not some fly-by-night company that's looking to lease this. We're looking to buy this property and revitalize it. So again, we're here to get some feedback from you guys. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns, that's why we're here. So.
Okay. Did you want to say anything?
I'll echo what John said. So, Lisa and John, thank you for setting this up. So I appreciate you folks at least hearing us out. We're very open to any suggestions, and, you know, maybe our standard footprint isn't the vision we have here. So that's kind of what, you know, I'm willing to discuss. How can we make this work? How can we make this blend with the community as it is now? And it's, you know, I'd love to get some feedback and see if we can move this forward.
Okay, and take the conversation back to the commission. Rick, would you like to start us off?
Well, I wondered would you be taking over the whole building or purchasing and using the whole building?
That is the plan, yes.
Yes.
Okay. And elaborate, could you, for me on the indoor storage function? I'm really not familiar, although I have seen a couple of local buildings now have been remodeled and turned into indoor storage facilities, but I personally have not been in one. I've used a storage facility myself previously, when I was making a move. But could you talk about how the indoor aspect of it works?
Yes, yep.
Obviously, you can't pull a car or a vehicle into the building and unload it next to a unit like you do outside. So how does that work exactly?
So what happens with this, and this is a fundamental change in the storage community at large. People who are storing items, you know, especially in a community like Petoskey here, you've got a lot of second homes, a lot of people who are coming up here for vacations. They're bringing their stuff with them. You know, we're bringing electronics, things that are very affected by weather. that are affected by heat and cold. The exchange of different temperatures can have a wild effect on different items that you purchase. So when you're storing in your traditional outside drive-up storage, non-climate control, it's not insulated, your goods are very affected by that. And so what we do mostly at this point is we do interior access climate control storage. So the temperature stays there or about the same year round. So when you're storing your stuff, you're not having to worry about moisture, you're not having to worry about, heat or cold affecting the items that you're storing. So with our facilities, especially in these Kmart's and others that we build now, we have what are called drive-in bays. So there are bays built specifically into the building where you're able to pull your car in, you shut your car off, the door closes behind you, there are carts available for you to load and take your items directly to your unit, offload into your unit, open the door back up and pull your car back out.
So that's kind of what I would be seeing in this particular photo here with these.
It's very similar to, although they're operational bays for the
There's some better
facility.
photos in the picture. If you want to go to a different one, I can point one out.
Okay.
The one that's on the floor. And one more, this is. Yep, there you go, that's probably a good example.
What's the
So,
title of it? What's the title?
it is.
Let's see, Oshkosh.
Oshkosh, Wisconsin is the photo. And it's the wood grain doors that we're referencing.
So Lisa, do you know where the garage door would be on that building? Do you have a mouse that you can show us?
We haven't proposed,
Haven't proposed anything.
this is a very
Oh.
generic layout, but
Okay.
we would add that to the building. And on the more finalized site plan, it was a reflector, we would install the bay for drive-in.
On this Oshkosh photograph,
Yes.
I assume I'm seeing some exterior story here too.
Yes, so we have that proposed on here, but we are, again, this was just an initial to sort of show you what we like to do and then get feedback. So in Oshkosh, we did do this. We proposed that on here, but
Well,
again,
that's
we're
what
here.
this portion
Yes,
of the
that's what
parking
those buildings reflect is this exact, it would be something similar to that.
Okay. I didn't realize that we were supposed to be buildings.
That's the Oshkosh, Wisconsin one.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question regarding the actual proposed retail space. What percentage of the entire facility would be
So-
retail?
You'd probably be looking at about 4,000 to 5,000 square feet in total for dedicated to retail.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then John and Lisa, in the memo, you noted that outdoor storage is not allowed, is indoor storage. Okay, so, and then if it were allowed, that would be for the entire Crestview development. Correct? So then some,
It's not specific to.
whoever's in Hobby Lobby someday could say, we want to turn this into an indoor storage. Okay,
Well, or if the PUD is to be modified, could it be stipulated that just be this particular portion of Crestview?
Unless they're purchasing the property.
Well, that was my question. Is the proposal to purchase or to lease?
We're looking to purchase specifically the Kmart and the adjacent two parking lots that kind of come with that. So the remainder of the facility would remain with its current ownership, but the Kmart building and those two parcels, you see divided by an island there, those would come with it.
Okay, Carolyn?
I think my questions were answered. Actually, the outdoor fenced in storage area that's left over from like the garden center. Would you guys utilize that
We would
behind the fencing?
traditionally remove that.
Okay,
So we don't have a use of it. So in a lot of cases, I mean, in almost all cases, we've removed the fencing and just kind of turned that into more either parking or just open space.
okay.
Yeah,
One other question comes to mind. We have a lot of vacant storefronts in that whole little strip.
Mhm.
And in your history of revitalizing these types of buildings, have you seen other businesses pop up that are in
yes,
complement you?
yes, absolutely. So, and it doesn't, it's complementary or just, in terms of revitalization, Byron Center comes to mind. So we purchased a Kmart in Byron Center, which had a similar size strip mall in it. It had a former grocery store that was closed down. It had a lot of empty vacant spaces. Subsequent to us buying it, a gym has actually built in the other half of the parking lot. So we have a Planet Fitness in the parking lot now. We have a hardware store that opened up Tractor Supply opened up in the former grocery store, and they probably have, I wanna say at this point, either all, if not most of the small spaces are filled up in the strip mall there. And we've been operating out of that one for 6 years now. So it definitely saw a nice revitalization of that particular strip that was very empty when we first purchased it.
Thank you.
Max?
So one of my primary concerns was just the small amount of retail space that was allocated. Because that is seeing kind of a resurgence that the other side of the strip mall. Petoskey Bridal moved over there, Little Traverse Bay Furniture. It would be nice to see that entire strip along the front, or just feather in a couple more retail spaces. That way, it doesn't function like a dark
Sure.
space.
Yeah,
That's why we're here today, is for suggestions, you know.
I don't have a photographic example, but a recent adaptive reuse of a Kmart is down in Acme Township on US 31 and 72. They did exactly what Max is talking about. The front third of the building, or fourth of the building, was all the windows, all the facade was taken out. They put in all windows. And then they devised it into about 5 or 6 businesses.
I believe there's apartments there too as well.
And then they have,
Behind
then
the grocery
inside,
store.
then inside they have storage in the middle third, and then the back third, they've carved it up into what they call flex warehousing for small contractor businesses. So they were able, on that project, they have a mixture of retail, storage, and small businesses all in the same building. The issue that I have, and I've talked to the guys here about it, so it's not new. This property suffers from lack of activation. There's not enough traffic down there. And the unfortunate part about it is, yes, U-Haul would do an adaptive reuse of the building, but based on their own traffic trip generation, you only bring in 30 to 40 vehicles a day, which isn't a large amount of traffic, that you would need to help fill parts of the other part of the shopping center. That's the dilemma.
Yeah.
And we did talk to them about using some of that parking lot in front of the building for outbuildings, to maybe have some new retail or restaurants.
That is like the gateway to coming into Petoskey, and
Exactly.
my concern with it still, being occupied, still being vacant.
Sure, and if I can just speak to that just a little bit, because he's absolutely right, our trip generation is very minimal, so the nice part about that is that, it's already a busy road, so it's not gonna cause a lot of congestion when it's already a busy corridor. It is the gateway. The nice part about having us there is that when you first come to town, you first go to your house outside of town, rather than drive to a storage facility on the periphery and never see any businesses, and you're likely to just come into town, go store, throw your stuff in and head back to your place. You're gonna come to U-Haul to drop your stuff off, so 30 new people a day who are dealing with us, we're the first place they come to in town. So we introduce them to this shopping mall, that otherwise they may not have even come here. If we were just some storage place out in an industrial park, they never had the opportunity to see this strip mall, they may never have come here. So that's why we work so well in these strip center, the trip generation is small, we fully admit to that, and it's actually a benefit to what is already a busy road. But we give that introduction, that gateway into town. That's what we provide, is this window to these shops that are in this mall will benefit from someone who may never have even gone there. Will now see it because they came to us, because we're their first stop. They gotta drop their stuff off with us. They gotta drop their equipment off with us. So it gives them an opportunity to be introduced to something, and 15 to 30 people new a day to that is not insignificant over time. It's a growing benefit.
Charlie?
Any consideration for adding a second story?
We had not ever considered that, no.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. My concern is that lot has been vacant for many years, nor do I see another commercial use for it, given its size. I know the hospital had considered renting part of it for use, but that was decades ago. I just, given the economy and everything, I just don't see it. I see this becoming a dead zone even more than it already is. The other thing is where you've got your mini outdoor storages, that's almost unseen just because of the topography and the highway is up so high. So I see that as viable. So your indoor storage, you're actually, cars will pull into the building, do their unload. Is that where you would keep your trailers, your vehicle hauling
That's,
platforms, all that would be inside, not out in the parking lot?
that's where we kind of, we've talked with Lisa and John on this, that, you know, we don't have a great solution for that. Is our preference would be that we use that space inside for the self-storage for customers to utilize. The equipment takes up a great deal of space. So if we were to utilize the inside for storing equipment, it would minimize dramatically what our effect would be to actually be able to build storage and to actually make this financially viable for us. So one of the solutions that we had come up with a little bit is those outbuildings, because the ordinance speaks to the equipment can be in the parking lot behind a building. So if we were to build in the parking lot in front and have the equipment behind that, and we have some options outside of the mini storage as well. We have other buildings that we build that would be more restricting view, but the topography, again, as you referenced, you know, we're sitting down, you know, 20, 25 feet from the road there. So as much as we can try to keep the equipment as invisible as possible. We had talked to Lisa and John about that. They had brought up the stored equipment inside as well. And from an aspect of how do we feasibly make this work with that, it would be very difficult to do a project along with everything stored inside.
And I appreciate that consideration, in your use of, again, at the bottom of the hill for that type of storage. That may be feasible, although it's hard to imagine how many pieces of equipment or how much space you would need for that, at least at this point. Would you consider, if this went, installing rooftop solar, you know, for electric generation or something like that? That's a huge footprint.
Sure.
And that could be of value to the community. It definitely would pay for your electrical usage. But just something to throw out there for consideration is.
I've never done it in Michigan, but I do know we have facilities that have had that installed. So it's something I'm more than willing to look into and see the viability of it. It is a very good spot for that. And so it is definitely something that we would be more than willing to look into and see if that's somehow we can make that work for sure.
And Robert, we have a professor on staff that is actually working through some of the latest and greatest sustainability and eco-friendly building concepts, as well as revitalizing a sustainable building as well as new construction. So we would have them add this to the list on what could they do to help. You know, selfishly, it does help us too in a lot of ways. So it's all a cost comparison. So some of this stuff, the cost is just not, it's not feasible, but for other items, absolutely. You know, we do a lot of things already with that practice in mind. You know, example being our furniture pads are made from recycled Lee jeans. We've done that for many years. Our packing peanuts are made from starch, so they're 100% biodegradable. So we do a lot of stuff already with that in mind. So to answer your question, yes, we'll have them look into it, certainly.
I know that the Kmart there in Detroit is it LEED certified, or is it, it's got a certification there from Detroit on our practices to
Yeah, we did a study with Wayne State, a partnership on a building down in Detroit.
former Kmart there, yeah. So we're definitely very open to all options when it comes to, you know, reuse or, you know, green energy. That's, you know, we're very much, that's stuff that we look into. That, like Jeff had indicated, we have a guy on staff, Professor Yang, and he this is all he does for us. That's his job entirely, is to find new ways that we can be, you know, lessen our footprint, lessen our impact. So that's where our mindset is always at, is how do we lessen?
Thank you. I want to bring it back to the table. Albert?
My question is, when Westview View was built, part of the reason it was built in the hole, if I go back and look at the history, which we did for our neighborhood at one point, it was built low perfected another resource that we have, is be the gateway to town. And when you come into town, you see the bay right over, not so much over the Kmart building, but certainly over the rest of the plaza. And that's why I think it says the zoning requirement is 30 feet in our thing, and I think yours says 33.7. And again, going back to the question, if you're just buying this property, or if we open it up to the whole plaza, I would have a little bit of concern about a height increase in that area. The view of our bay, at least to me, this is my personal opinion, is part of what we need to keep track of.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we referenced the height. We don't plan on raising the building at all.
Okay. Right.
So that might have been,
Yeah, so in your thing here, this drawing, it says 1 story, 33.7 height.
we might have made a mistake, Albert.
Yeah.
That's as the building sits.
Okay,
No,
okay, and then 30,
Those outbuildings would be 12 feet tops.
Okay.
They're not high.
Yeah,
then the other question I have is, you talked about maybe becoming a full rent center. What does that mean? I know I'm familiar with Kalamazoo, where I spent 41 years.
Sure.
I lived
Portage
here.
Avenue, yeah,
Right, Portage Avenue.
yes.
And one of the great things that I used 2 or 3 times over the years was put a hitch on my car.
Yeah, sure.
If we, will that be part of this? Because it is, that kind of changes, it becomes a service center and that kind of thing. So, at one point when you said we're thinking about becoming a full rent center, what is your initial vision? And then if it became a full rent center, what else might be going on there?
yeah.
Because if you're starting to do automotive service and putting, I mean, it's not really service because you're putting a hitch on, but still,
Yeah.
cars are going up on lifts, and then we have zoning things for service stations that would have to be considered, I would think.
So a lot of this, Robert, or Albert, sorry, is, when we say full line, so traditionally our full line would be all moving supplies, anything you need moving wise, as far as packing supplies, everything you would need. Our full retail line of vehicles, trailers as well. We do offer, the hitch installs in some locations. Some locations we offer propane depending on the areas. So there is a lot to what we do. Our vision is kind of, what is the vision of the group? What would be acceptable? That's where we're at. So would we love to go in and do the full gamut? Yes, we would, with a market study to make sure those services are needed.
Yeah,
But we're also willing to, storage is what our market study first said. There is a shortage of rooms, specifically climate controlled, secured self-storage in the area. That is our primary, so that is the biggest opportunity as far as, for us, what we would like to start with. If those other services are allowed and favorable, we would love to discuss it. We're very open anyway. Can I ask, Charlie, you asked if we're adding a second story. May I ask what was the reason for that?
Well, it would be prohibitive for, in terms of the.
Just the height.
The view shed.
Got it.
gotcha, yeah.
Okay.
As long as you ask me that question, I'll follow up with, this is the gateway to our community. And, this idea, if the Kmart had been located out at Bear Creek Crossing or something like that, it would be no brainer as far as I'm concerned. I am concerned about it, given the current location. And I'm particularly concerned about vehicle storage.
So that's my concern is once, and I understand an empty big box store. That's not great. And the longer it sits, that's not good. But once this is purchased and it's a U-Haul facility, indoor storage, that's what it is for the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And it really, at 30 to 40 vehicles, maybe a day going down there, that's not gonna do anything for those other businesses there. And that's not to say somebody, it could be next year, it could be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Somebody might have a creative use for that large space that is not going to be possible because it is a U-Haul store in the gateway of our community.
I think Max brought up, somebody did, about another place where they had retail.
John, that Acme.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think something like that would be appropriate. I agree wholeheartedly with Charlie and Matt that this is not the place for this kind of use. It isn't gonna help the shopping area. It's a really attractive area. And of course, it's our grand view as you come in. So I sure don't wanna see those exterior storage units. I wouldn't wanna see the heavy duty equipment. And I would rather, first off, this kind of use is not allowed in that district. And it's also not allowed in the PUD. So we would really be altering things significantly. And I don't think we want to do that. I think that there are other alternatives that might include housing, might include some other uses that would be more beneficial for the total PUD.
Well, and I would add to that I think it's a great model, a great concept. And I'm not unsympathetic to the issues that US Properties or whatever their name is experiencing and trying to find somebody else or another creative way to do it. But we have discussed some other potential alternatives that maybe we should look a little bit more deeply into. But I just don't think this is the location for us and the
Right, the use.
solution,
Yeah.
the solution.
Yeah.
First.
Well, this is not the purpose of the meeting is not for the planning commission to make a decision one way or the other.
Understood.
Just to provide feedback to the.
Understood.
to the-
Well, I
But
think they
you
need
want
to
some
heed
feedback,
it
so
to
I'm
that.
trying to give honest
Yeah.
feedback.
They need to hear feedback. That's
Honest
the
feedback.
purpose of it.
That's what my intention was. Rick?
Well, the biggest negative in my mind is, the outdoor storage units, which I presume are more of a standard outdoor storage unit. They're not climate controlled. Well, those things are popping up like mushrooms
Mhm.
everywhere. And I can't imagine that there's even a market for that unless it's a convenience to your customers to have that sort of storage along with indoor climate controlled storage that you're proposing. So to me, that's a deal breaker going out of the gate to have that outdoor storage. Potentially, if the front of the building were somehow to be adapted in a way that would be a little more user friendly to the larger mall. I could see possibly doing that, picking up on the idea of trying to create some other smaller retail stores. And having customer parking in the lot that is farthest north. And moving the vehicle storage in the lot that's to the south, because that's what's hidden the most as you come down the hill.
But even though it's hidden, it's still
Oh,
visible.
yeah.
So I
Definitely.
don't think that's
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Solution.
if there were trade-offs to be made or ways to make it acceptable, those are the kind of things I would maybe see have.
Yeah, I agree with Rick on that. I think that the retail would be more accommodating to the site if it was flipped to the north end of the building on that corner where it's connecting to the strip malls that have a covered sidewalk area. And then those little mini storage pods, like they should be tucked in on the north end of the building or the south end of the building.
Or
Where the
eliminated,
fenced area
not-
was.
Not included. Completely.
Yeah, or potentially like when you're coming into town, it's really, this whole area is kind of hidden because there's a hill and it's a bowl. If the storage units were, worked into along the landscaping better or along the south end of the building, I would be more in favor of something like that instead of just plopped in the front of or in the middle of a parking lot.
It's too bad you all didn't buy Art Van and Hudson could have bought it. Okay,
Yeah.
Once I should have bought a.
that would have been,
Street North.
that would have been sweet.
I have a question for the planning commission. If they were to be looking at like the Dunham's building, would we be concerned with having pods in that parking lot and
Yeah.
trailer?
Very concerned.
Yeah.
Mhm. Said enough said.
Any public comment?
Oh, yes.
That Paul 603 East Lake Street. I understand the use of the building and some things I like about the indoor storage. I understand what they're trying to do. My biggest objection is what several of you have said is on the exterior, the pods. I've got up on Google Earth, you can see that lower parking lot. There's no question you can see that lot from the road. And several people on the planning commission probably remember us agreeing with the owner of that property. We have more visibility to that site. They cut out a bunch of trees. So we're kind of going in circles here with that. They wanted more visibility. Now we're gonna put things there that really have an industrial look to it. So that's the biggest objection I have is the outdoor mini pods.
So if with those, they're kind of standard to our business plan. We put those out there for recognition. So while they are active used, they're not something that we have to have. That's why they're on the plan. We wanted some feedback on it. We're not married to them. We do like to have them, as you saw in most of ours, that we try to have them out there for recognition purposes. It's a changing industry, but it changes slowly. People see an old Kmart, no matter how you dress it up, they don't understand that it's storage. Those buildings in the parking lot bring recognition, and that's why we include them. But again, we can operate without them. So I don't want anyone to think that that's make or break for us. Obviously, we would like to have them, and we understand the feedback that you've given on them. It's not something that we couldn't eliminate. And we definitely appreciate the feedback in terms of like the retail along the front of the building. I heard from most of you that would be agreeable. I don't know if that's the consensus, if we did some sort of a retail strip along the front of the building, if that would make it more acceptable for us to use the back half for the interior access storage. That would be something that we could look into and do, if that's sort of the consensus of you guys, that this would be something you could move forward with that in mind. And then as for the vehicle rental and other things in the parking lot there, you know, doing retail and just storage is something that we could also look at here. If that was something that would be more meaningful and something that we could come to a consensus on, that would be agreeable, is without the trucks or trailers, that this would just be storage and retail.
Okay, any other comments? All right. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Next, proposed amendments to Article 17, general provisions, and Article 20, Board of Appeals, Section 206. Okay, Lisa.
So the ZBA has been doing some consideration changes to these two articles to make it very clear how long a zoning permit is good for, how long a variance is good for, whether it's for use or for dimensional. So you've been provided with language that they approved at their August 5th meeting. And they have recommended that this come before the Planning Commission for consideration to potentially schedule a public hearing, and then it passes from that point for the City Council to make a revision to our zoning ordinance. Essentially, it makes it very clear. The language in our current ordinance is, I'm guessing, original from 1974, and a lot of legal terminology and explanation that's not very clear. So you'll see there's the proposed language. This is new for section 1721. That would include the zoning permit being valid for 12 months. And then under section 2007, which is where article, sorry, this is article 20. You'll see there's the existing original languages 1 through 3 on the front of the page. On the back, there are now 4, and it basically breaks that down, making it very clear what the requirements are in order to have a valid permit and to retain that.
If we've had issues with what's going on with
No, it's not so much the issue of that, it's the issue of a permit being issued prior to the expiration of the variance. And the permit being good for 12 months. So this makes it very clear that it expires upon the expiration of the variance, not the zoning permit. So there was kind of a conflict. So typically people would get a variance and they would apply for a zoning permit within 4 to 6 weeks. Some might take 3 months, but as of more recently, we had someone at 11 months apply, and technically the zoning permit was good for a year from that time. So this will make it so that the zoning permit is valid for 1 year from the date it is approved for a general zoning permit. But a zoning permit that's issued with a variance is only good for 12 months from the date of approval. So it doesn't go beyond that.
So from a user standpoint, I've gotten a variance. And how long would it take me, if I know I got the variance at the ZBA, how long would it take me to get a permit? I mean, if I just went in the next morning, because I had my stuff lined up,
At the building department or here?
or both,
City?
whatever.
I mean, here it could be anywhere from the same day to 2 weeks is what I typically tell people. It just depends on the workload. The application submitted prior to yours. I know the county's similar. I usually tell people to apply to the county the same time they apply to the city.
Right.
And then the county will hold it until they get your zoning permit, and then that way it's a little bit faster.
Is there a process to extend it in the extenuating circumstances? Like you go to the,
For a variance,
for the, you go to the, I'm just trying to think from our user standpoint, you go to the county and they put 5 more things in front of you. Now you're variance.
you would have to, if it's for a variance, you would have to reapply to the ZBA.
Okay,
To get an extension.
you get extension.
They would not extend it. They would basically, it would expire and you would have to reapply.
So you'd have to pay the fee again. I feel like construction timelines
Right.
sometimes grow beyond 12 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it
These days
says you would
especially.
start construction and if it's on schedule. So I think that
Just hold it
gives
firm.
this zoning administrator leeway.
So if it's a generic zoning permit, I would have the authority to extend it like we had during COVID. We had people who had started projects or wanted to start projects and they were delayed. So it was not uncommon. Those did not have variances attached to them. They were specifically for a zoning permit.
Okay.
I've had people say, I need, 6 more weeks because my contractor can't get in here and do this. So I've extended them to allow that, but not for a variance, just for a zoning permit for a use. If they've got a, practical difficulty of sense that, it's not like I just didn't do it. It's, there's been delays and I haven't been able to. Typically contractors are the ones applying anyway, so they're usually pretty timely. I think I've only extended one, from a generic or general zoning permit. But essentially that's, as far as the variance is concerned, that once it's done, it's done. And they would have to reapply.
Yeah.
Well, to start construction, isn't it? I mean, it could almost be 2 years, right? Because you've got 12 months to get your building permit. And let's say you've got a variance from the ZBA, you've got 12 months to get your building permit
And start construction.
and put a shovel in the ground potentially. And then, your building permit's good for another 12 months.
The county would be the one that would offer extensions on that, not the city.
Yeah.
And this language has gone through legal counsel. She has reviewed it. In fact, she wrote a portion of it, the revised version on the uses and tried to help make it as clear as possible. So just so you're aware of that as well.
Yeah, I feel like it's not enough time in the 12-month period. Like,
Getting harder all the time to accomplish stuff with the current, work environment, or I should say construction.
yeah, yeah. Well, even with my own projects, if my clients know that, or we know we need to go for a variance, I'm gonna go for that variance before I spend a lot of time designing something that they potentially don't get approved. So once they get their variance, then I'm gonna go back and finalize the design. So there's time in there that's also
Right.
needed
Yeah.
before we would even
Before
go
you
for it.
even get a building.
Yeah,
Well, as with any zoning code, planning commission has the discretion to make changes. This is their recommendation, but the planning commission wants to insert more time frame. That's your prerogative.
Well, what do you think you would need in terms of time?
I've had projects last 3 years. I have one, my home on Michigan Street, not a great example. I also applied for a variance. The guest house is just finished. I've owned it for 2 years. And it has a substantial amount to go. It's gonna be another 2 to 3 years. And that's, I'm a normal person and I'm spending probably $1.5 million on this project. Normal people can't do that. And in order to do that, I have to stage it. So,
You're talking about the construction part of it, right, Max?
yeah, but I'm saying also if you want that substantial investment, I think it takes a significant amount of time for people to find skilled labor and to have it delivered.
Right, so you're saying if you didn't have all the money up front to pay for
It
that,
doesn't even matter if I had all the money up front too. It's the lack of a talent pool.
Yeah.
Well, but once you pull the building permit, then there is no, I mean, as long as you're building, there's no limitation, right?
I've continuously, because there are 2 structures, I've continuously extended my permitting. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, as long as you're under construction and you're making some progress, you don't have to renew a building permit. This really is, we're talking about zoning permits here. Variance.
Yeah, so
So this would be where someone gets a variance and then gets a zoning permit. They have to get a building permit and start construction within 12 months.
what if that
It
expires?
say when it has to be finished.
Right, it just says.
It has to be finished, you have to start construction.
it has to commence.
You know,
And then be on a
I
follow
thought
schedule.
At least 18.
That's it, 18 to 24, or it's 12 months, and if you're not there, then you could get a 12-month extension to 24 months, and beyond that, you
If
would
there's no
have to.
change in this, in the project.
Exactly. Then beyond that, you would have to reapply maybe. Or get an extension.
And they were against the extension. The ZBA was, they wanted it. Because I think they wanted to keep people accountable to do it instead of just dragging it out and then how many years later you
Yeah.
just continue to get,
But-
because
but I-
nothing's changed.
But I think Carolyn's analysis is pretty spot on because if somebody gets a variance, then they usually will then turn their architect or designer loose on creating the drawings, which then goes through a bidding process with contractors and subcontractors. That alone may go from 9 months. So if you're doing 12 as the cutoff, that doesn't really give you a lot of.
That's pretty tight.
Depending on the size of the project.
Into the phasing,
If the process was extended to 18 or 24 months, would the ZBA have any problem with that? What would their position
I
be?
think their recommendation was 12 months.
I understand, but if it was longer than that,
The other thing that.
would that negate their request?
I don't think it gave the request. I haven't been as familiar with it as Lisa, but I think one of the meetings I was in, they wanted something that was that had parameters to it in terms of time frame.
Yeah, but if you change the number from 12 to 18 or 24, are they gonna care?
I can't speak to that, but I mean, it's ultimately, this is a recommendation they're making. They don't have the
You know, historically,
authority like the planning commission does to make that determination. They're simply making a recommendation to the planning commission to consider updating
I
the
think
language
there's-
so that we have guidelines that are very
Just a
specific.
minute, Rob. I think, one of the goals would be that you don't want a lot sitting empty and not being developed after there have been a number of them where we said, yes, you can do this. And then it sits there for years. I think that's part of the goal is to get things moving, and if it's not gonna move, then let it go and let it be open for something
when
else.
you say it sits there for years, do you mean with construction partially
No,
completed?
sitting empty, vacated.
But if it's already been vacant, what does it matter if it
Yeah.
sits there vacant another year? What's it matter if it's a vacant lot to start with?
We'd like to see the vacant lot filled,
Yeah.
like the one across the street.
I'm thinking of the Work Family Video used.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Family's
9
good.
years ago.
A good example of that where it just sits.
then you're penalizing the developer by forcing them to come back in and apply for a variance when they have the funding at that point. Move forward with. the
Then they may
project.
not get the variance approved.
Well, when you talk about punishing, the thing is that we already have a limit in terms of site review. So as an example, the folks that bought Family Video had to come back to the planning commission twice. A second time to extend, and they still haven't put a shovel into the ground. So if they have no intention of putting a shovel in the ground, or they're not prepared, or they don't have the money, then it's not a matter of punishment, it's a matter of how long do we, as the public, need to wait for them to do their thing.
Was this brought up on Monday at city council with the vacant buildings, vacant lots brought up? in the
It was
downtown?
not, no. But there was coincidentally, and I'm glad you mentioned that, there was another potential change to the zoning ordinance that was brought up that was shot down.
So that,
DOA because there were not enough votes to do anything with the zoning code before the entirety is reviewed and passed. So the question that I have is, I don't have any problem with this. I think it's it's a hole to plug. But should we be doing this now and trying to advance it now, or should we integrate it into the ZORC process?
Yeah, I'd say, when's the last time the ZBA even met? It's like
They
cancel
met
after
again.
cancel. They have?
I think,
I don't think before January this is gonna fly.
well, I don't think we should predicate our decisions on that. I think we have to predicate our decisions on what we think is prudent. And the bottom line is, once the council gets the full draft of the zoning code, I don't think they're gonna act on it very quickly. So we could be talking a significant amount of time. So
That's true too.
I think it's the responsibility of the planning commission. We don't second guess what city council's gonna do. You take the action that you think is appropriate, and that's their decision politically.
Well, from that standpoint, I don't really care whether it's 12 months, 18 months, or 24 months, whatever you guys think is reasonable,
Well,
practical,
yeah.
and real.
I'm trying to get a read from the three architects that we have
Yeah,
here.
but
And they're
other than
saying
that, I
12
don't have a
months is
problem.
too short.
Yeah, I mean, just think of you went to the ZBA in November and you got it approved and you're designing, you really can't put, if, depending on the size of the project, if you want to put in a foundation, you have to wait till April to do that anyways. And then you're really not gonna get a project done in 5 to 6 months, depending on the size of it. So then you
Started.
Started. But
2 years.
well,
maybe.
Yeah.
the design
Just
process
even
is
start the
definitely.
project.
Yeah,
This hasn't been an issue that I'm aware of, other than the most recent last minute application.
Well, the design process is more onerous than it used to be with, additional code requirements that are every 3 years coming online because the building code changes every 3 years. And so you've got, and they never take anything out. They're always adding things in, so the book just keeps getting thicker and thicker. And there's more design time required to turn out a project than there used to be, I'll say.
Okay, so
They're more police involved.
go ahead, Albert.
going back to some of the discussion. This is a recommendation by the ZBA. Is what they think would be best to help them do what they need to do. Just like we thought, what we put together last week, and was shot down because developers should be able to do anything they want to do. Not quite that, I'm paraphrasing, but that's how I read it.
It had to do with the parking.
And then
for
you know,
the
how we
restaurant
spend
that
parking
doesn't
for
have
restaurants and how many
Tables,
seats we should have and it makes sense.
employee parking.
So part of me says if the ZBA wants this. Now, if they think it'll work in it, I feel like they want to have some teeth so they can say to somebody, you've got to get started. And my first read this, I didn't understand, and as you guys were talking, this is not when you have to be finished. You have to be started. And define, as architects, define starting, somebody said a shovel in the ground. And unless we want to contradict what the ZBA came up with, the lawyers saying that as their best recommendation, I could go with this and then we can get some feedback and look at what we do the ZORC thing. But if it makes sense to have 18 months or longer. I don't feel like I know enough other than what our architects tell us, which I know that I had a project that started on it's not a I don't have any variance. It's just fixing the basement that got wet. That started March 31st. I'm still not done.
Is it possible, John, to have another line in here that says that if the project is taking longer and it can't be achieved within, if it can't be started within this 12 months, that they can come back and ask for an extension from the CBA at the CBA's full discretion?
I think, Lisa can correct me. I think what the ZBA is trying to get at is that once they approve the variance, they want a set number of months to give the applicant to pull their building permit.
Right.
Is that correct?
Both permits and to start.
And construction. So really to me, the issue is 12 months a reasonable time frame,
Right.
or is something like 18 months a reasonable time frame? Because we're not talking about completing the project, we're talking about from the date of the variance is issued, that they have to pull their building permit and then get started.
Right.
It doesn't mean they have to have the project completed. So what's that magic number that the planning commission feels comfortable with? The zoning board is saying 12 months. I'm hearing from some of the PC members that that's too short based on construction drawings, negotiating with a contractor, getting things ready to go, even to submit your plans to the building office. And then the other part of it is, you don't just get your permit from the building department when you drop your plans off. They can take several weeks or a month to review the plans before they issue a permit. So I think the key here is, what is the number of months that we think is appropriate?
Well, the tradition has always been 12, and I assume, and I haven't been party to the CBA discussions on this, but I presume that they just left it 12 because traditionally it's always been 12. And maybe that was not part of their discussion. Their discussion is for trying to make sure that the language clearly states that there's a time frame, not so much what the time frame is. So, you know, I would say I'd like to see it changed to 18 months if I had my choice.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
Is there, we're guessing what the ZBA wants and will tolerate. Is it possible, do we have to act on this tonight? Could this be moved and we have somebody from ZBA give us some direct feedback? Maybe that's inappropriate. I don't know if that is, or I'm just asking because. I
The
hate
ZBA
that-
as a whole would have to speak on it.
Oh, okay.
This is a recommendation. They do not have the authority to make these
Okay.
decisions. So this is why this is a recommendation to the planning commission to consider this language. So it's your
Okay. That's our
purview to
purview.
make those changes, not.
If they say it's 18, but city council would say we want it to be 12,
Okay.
Yeah.
then it would be 12.
But I don't think we're pulling this out of a hat. I think we have three experts here.
I'm
Who made
okay with
suggestions?
18, I just don't like.
All right, so 18?
It's okay with me.
And is that specific just to the variance zoning permit, not?
So we'll keep, so general provisions.
Zoning permit without a variance, 18 for one with a variance.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
And change that in both amendments.
Yes.
So the question is, we need a motion to put this forward to council.
You need a motion to schedule.
Oh, it's a public hearing, sorry.
That would be.
I had one more question. Apparently they discussed, and I'm talking about the zoning, the ZBA, that they wanted to be informed if a compliance permit expires. Is that something, do you remember that discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Is there-
Essentially, they were, that's nothing they have any, the body doesn't have any authority
Okay,
over those, so the attorney had essentially
okay,
just let them know that that's something that they have authority over. It would be, basically, these will be the new guidelines, and when it expires, and I mean, they can certainly inquire, but it's not.
right. Well, but they could inquire, like we get these notices that show things, maybe they could get something like that. Is that within their purview?
I mean, we could provide them with one. That's not something they've asked for, but
Okay. Well, apparently there was discussion.
there was, yeah.
All right, public comment?
I don't know.
All right,
I move that we schedule a public hearing for
September 17th.
September 17th. To review this language, including the change from 12 to 8.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. Everyone raise their hand and say aye.
Raise their heads.
So it's, what's next on the agenda?
Outdoor light.
Outdoor. All right, Ted is gonna join us.
Okay, I'll give the planning commission a brief on what's up. During the zoning review committee discussion on Article 6, which is after this discussion. We got into the outdoor lighting provisions, and it was decided to pull exterior lighting out of the zoning code and have it as a police power ordinance in the city code, like the sign ordinance. Sign ordinance is outside the zone code. Lighting is outside the zone code. But then during our discussion, further discussion on the exterior lighting, the committee decided to take a look at the International Dark Sky Association template for model exterior lighting that complies with the dark sky guidelines. Considering the fact that Emmett County has one of the few international dark sky parks in the world. So with that, we took a look at the model ordinance. We made some modifications to it to simplify it, actually to try to I guess the word simplify it to make it understandable, because the model ordinance was using metric data rather than empirical or English data. So we converted everything into foot candles and lumens instead of lux. So that's the purpose of the ordinance. Planning Commission wants to proceed with it. It would be Appendix D of the city code. And it would basically govern all exterior lighting in the community. One thing that's set up in all of the dark sky codes is that they have lighting levels or lighting zones. They have 0 through 4. We don't have a 0 in town because that is natural areas like out in the wilderness. But we have lighting zones 1 through 3. And then I reviewed what the different lighting zones were and then applied what the zoning districts would be that would fit into those lighting zones. And then eventually, if Planning Commission wants to proceed with this, we would have a map created that would have the lighting zones that would be reflected by zoning code. So instead of having a zoning map, we would have a lighting map that has all of the 3 different zone colors that when the Planning Commission is reviewing the site plan, and it falls within a particular zone, then they can refer to what the lighting requirements would be. So that's in a nutshell. This is the zoning committee, which is Cynthia, Rick, Carolyn, Charlie, and Ted, have gone through and done an initial review. I had a sidebar conversation today with Ted on a couple of items, really standardizing the lighting turnoff times. There were a couple of different ones in here. We decided to standardize everything to 11 p.m. So there's no conflict. Other than that, everything is still the same. And at that point, I'd open up to the Planning Commission for comments. And the usual that we go through on a zone.
I do have a question about the landscaping lighting versus building lighting, nighttime hours. Landscaping lighting was 30 minutes after business closed. And nighttime hours will begin 1 hour after closing. So unless it's nighttime lighting will begin 1 hour after closing.
And the definitions.
Okay, line 278, nighttime hours. And then the other one is page 3, line 110. That's number 4, landscape and accent lighting and well proposal 2 shall automatically shut off before midnight nightly or within 30 minutes below.
We changed that to 11.
So,
All midnight.
all, anything that,
And then the nighttime hour definition, 10 is in brackets, because that was kind of like a holding, but that would also go to 11 o'clock. So
11 p.m.
11 p.m.,
so where it says midnight, where it says,
yes,
yeah, we just substitute 11.
11 o'clock. Everything's standardized to 11.
Okay, then what about the closing, which is later? The landscape is 30 minutes and the other one is, in the definition that it says for business and events, 1 hour.
No.
So landscaping will be 1 hour?
Yeah.
It's also important to point out that this has to do with lighting installed or replaced within the city after the effective date. So
Yeah.
this is, we're not, there's some we'd like to come after, but we can't come after them with.
I had a question about that.
Except, as was pointed out by John to me, that in cases of nuisance or complaints,
Right.
it would apply.
So that was my question. I can't remember where it was, but I saw there was like a stipulation, if there's a complaint made. And then who does that go, goes to Lisa? And then, so then how does that get handled?
So then ultimately I will notify the property owner that there's an issue and it needs to be addressed. They'll have a time frame that they need to basically rectify.
Okay, so if someone has their house lit up and it's just blinding light into the neighbor's windows, there's a few of those around town.
Yes, there are.
And if they complain,
Yeah.
then you would, okay,
Notify them.
okay.
So I stand corrected that it's not just replacement or installation. It will have full police powers for nuisance
If
violations.
someone files.
All right, so enforcement line, it's page 7, line 207, enforcement and penalty. You go down to line 212, number 1, the zoning administrator charged with enforcing this chapter shall have authority, blah, blah, blah. It says she can make a waiver for up to 1 year if the property owner demonstrates the compliance creates unreasonable hardship as balanced against the potential impacts of non-compliance or results in conditions that are materially detrimental to health, safety, or welfare. So that's where your nuisance exception is.
If I could, a few comments. I worked with John on this. He did a really nice job. The dark, ours was, we didn't have much in our previous zoning ordinance. We had 4 points. So it was a little thin. The dark sky was really excellent, and why this is important is in the purpose. A lot of this is essentially, I would say, 85% of this is straight from the dark sky ordinance. The problem with the dark sky is it didn't put many metrics in their data points, foot candles. It was relying on the IES and Illuminating Engineering Society of North America standard tables and book. It's an extensive book and a lot of it's interior lighting. So I think what John tried to do was pull out what we thought was pertinent in lighting levels. And John, I think, created the lighting zones and we'll be creating the map. So I think it was really nice job and very well done. Not everything's going to be perfect. There's provisions in there for historic neighborhoods. There's some allowance to not have to. One thing that's lighting generally has to be shielded. So some historic neighborhoods will have the porch lights that are not shielded. They're lantern type hanging things. So I asked a question about that at a meeting and the answer was in that, like the whole large historic district, a neighborhood, John, the Mitchell's, what's it called?
Mitchell, it's Mitchell Street.
Yeah, just like they would fall within that, but some areas of town wouldn't. I think the discussion too with Lisa was, it's not like people are gonna be going around trying to find problems, but we've had a few issues in the neighborhood with some blinding lights from And it's, some of this is gonna be honestly, where there's big kind of nuisance issues, at least there will be some ability for the city to work with the property owner and try and fix that.
And I think what I'd like to do on this ordinance, I think I had it in my memo and I was rethinking it. Before I want this to move to city council, I would like to, whenever the planning commission is done with its review, I would like to submit it to the International Dark Sky Association and see if they said that this would be, they would certify this as a, one of their, they would recognize it as a international dark sky model ordinance. And then move it on to city council so we can, if we get that extra designation, I think that means something, a little bit more.
Yes, definitely.
That'd be great.
John had explained to the zoning committee that the dark sky, as you said, was very strict on not taking their document and modifying it to any degree without asking them. They're very specific because they feel they put work into it. So they don't want you can't just say you're dark sky compliant. So he did make some changes, so he'd have to get that.
I had no problem waiting till you get a response from the Dark Sky Association. But whether we're certifiable or just compliant, in the end, I think it's, it's what we need and it still should be moved forward.
Yes, I agree. This is a huge step forward, I think. As Ted said, what we had before was extremely thin.
Well,
Yeah.
It was this one.
Almost none.
Everything's measurable.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
And this is using a metric, with the dark sky.
There's no telling how long it'll take to get a response, but
I'll send it to them.
I have a question. Is every time I read this, I find something, but we had talked about some different situations in town and we had looked at the IES tables of lighting and recommendations. And one of them we talked about was the service station areas around the pumps. And I don't think that made the table.
Well, it had a separate,
It would be depending on the zoning district. So what would it be? The zoning districts would be the V1, V2, V2A, V2B, LZ2, and then it's got canopy.
Drive canopies?
Yep.
so, all right, that, I'm assuming is the one line 129, page 4.
No, it's
Page 5.
Page 5,
155.
Oh, okay, in the text.
Lisa's telling me that the marathon's D3, so you'd have to go down and take a look at the drive canopies there. So the max horizontal would be 20, the average would be 5. And then the average / the minimum would be 4.1 or 4:1.
So,
That's pretty low compared to
What it is now.
right, no, so like if we take that 20-foot candles, I'm pretty confident using not a professional meter, but if this says 20-foot candles, 20 is pretty bright. Like you could read at your kitchen table at 20. You can, they're like 60-foot candles. You could probably do surgery.
You can still do, sir. You're saying they're
At
60 now.
60, you could probably do surgery.
Okay, so, but 20 would be.
I'd rather.
A lot better,
Oh, yeah.
but it's still bright.
Not me.
I like the introduction of French into our ordinance.
Okay, so that's covered, John.
So, the thing, exceptional uses, and this is line 125, number 8 on page 4. Exceptional uses, the following exceptional use type shall be required to submit lighting plans to the planning commission for approval of lighting associated with this use type. So, much of the allowances and conditions in here. So they actually, it looks like this is an exception where we could, if they requested brighter lights, we would reference the IES for evaluation of suitability.
And then you could approve it if you want.
Well, John, isn't this saying these specific A through E are required to submit lighting plans?
Yes.
Whereas other situations are expected to be compliant,
Okay,
but not submitting them. So these are very specific.
okay.
I mean, let's, if you go over to Petoskey Field, watch a football game, and they have lights on at
Yeah.
night, that's really bright. And so what this would say, these are potential exceptions, but they would have to present photometric plans, and then we'd have to evaluate.
And maybe the hours could be stricter.
Yeah.
Based on,
Yeah.
the time of the event.
So if you can, I mean, if you're comfortable with it, my next step is I'm gonna send it off and see what kind of response we get.
Is it too premature to schedule a public hearing?
We can schedule a public hearing, but before it goes to council, I want to make sure that it's going, we get some reading. I get some reading from the International Sky, the Dark Sky Association, if it's compliant.
So.
Well, if with their, but I don't expect there would be major changes, but if there were, then we'd have to have another public hearing. So I would say wait till that gets through. I just have a clarification, and that's on line 205 appeals. It says, any appeals related to decisions regarding outdoor lighting shall be made to the zoning administrator doesn't. So the appeal goes to the zoning administrator, not the, it won't be the ZBA.
Okay.
Initially, and then if they weren't happy, they could go to the.
And they're not happy with the zoning administrator's
They go to.
decision, then they can appeal to the CBA.
Okay, do we need to say that?
No, it's already.
That's in the law.
It's already-
Okay. All right,
So I don't disagree with you that we should hold a public hearing after we get feedback.
uh-huh.
But if we scheduled a public hearing for now, we got feedback between now and September, then we could just say that we want to postpone the public hearing and move
Apparently,
it.
I don't think I'd get response back because we have to post 15 days ahead of time, so we'd be putting the public notice out
What I was going to say,
around the 1st or 2nd of September. We're not gonna have any feedback.
just was looking for a way to advance this.
No, I appreciate that, but we'll send it over to them tomorrow and see what their response is.
Thanks, John.
This
is why I think this is.
Needed.
Yes.
All right. Not gonna get out of here at 7, but within the hour.
You're doing good.
All right, why do I have never mind. All right. So this is the 2026 to 2031 capital improvement program. We had a meeting with city council. There was much discussed. And now we're so this doesn't need to have a public hearing. This just, we recommend it and it goes to city council.
That's good.
So tonight's the night we can discuss it. If there's any recommendations different than what's in here. And we pass it on to city council. So I think the focus would be 2026. And maybe 2027, but
Well, the way CIPs work, they're for a 6-year time frame, right? When planning commission recommends it to city council and city council adopts it, the projects that are in the 2026 column automatically migrate into the city budget. So they become part of the budget for the next fiscal year. So the projects in the 2026 column are probably the most, right now, the most important. Secondarily would be 2026 or 2027.
Absolutely, and if I might offer that what we really need to be looking at is those entries that refer to the planning and zoning. In other words, do we feel, John submitted some ideas in the process. Do we feel that those are the planning and zoning projects that we want to engage in that order? The order of,
So that-
for instance, in 2026, looking at section 6 of your book, John has suggested the Historic District Study Committee and the sub-area plan for Ward 4. Now, if you look through the the next years, in the 2027. The only entry for planning and zoning is the Mitchell Street redevelopment plan. Which I believe is West Mitchell, right? The corridor that we've talked about. And then if you go to the following year, it's non-motorized transport plan, an extension of the Bear River corridor. So the question is, in terms of the planning commission's future projects, where do we feel we want to be putting our emphasis and what kind of financial support do we want to back that up with? Because this is the place to identify. Now, I will point out also that the Livable Petoskey Master Plan, which is exclusively the responsibility of the Planning Commission, is due every 5 years, and 2026 is the year that we need to take some kind of act, according to Michigan. We need to take some kind of action. We can rubber stamp it and just say, not now. Or we can engage in some form of review and process to update the strategic plan. And that's the one that sticks with me the most, because if we look at, I had Lisa very kindly print me out a list of the action items and strategies, exclusively a list of projects that are enumerated in the 2021 plan. And interesting, the one area that had the most number of hits was zoning, with 15 hits throughout this 9 pages of action items and strategies. The planning commission has embraced that and has taken on the project of reviewing. Well, we thought it was going to be a review at first, but now it's rewriting because we realized it was so out of whack, the zoning. So that really got initiated through the action items and the strategies outlined in this plan. And that's appropriate, I think, for the planning commission and all boards and city council to take the strategic plan, and with the exception of urgent matters like taking care of downtown buildings or addressing ice storm issues, things that come up obviously in the 5-year interim period, I think it's absolutely crucial for us to be using this long-term strategy as a citizen's view of what we should be putting our energies on. And the question is, if it's due for renewal next year, do we not want to have some kind of entry in the CIP that supports that effort?
See how much energy has gone into the zoning part. And to do a good master, other than like you say, put a check in the box and rubber stamp it, which since we've done so much of this, the zoning part of it, and I'm still working on it, but there's gonna be other things that we need to start looking at. We've completed this, but there's gonna be a new 5-year outlook.
Well,
It's gonna 5-year outlook's gonna change because we've got them. I would be all for asking for some money to do.
an update, sometime.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that looks like. I mean, I don't know whether it's,
But let's have John.
You know, I would, on the update of the master plan, because it's coming up, that would be a topic that I would get with the city manager on and have them included in the operational budget of the city as a line item, not in the capital improvements.
so we wouldn't need any outside consulting help.
No, you have an outside consultant.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but these other areas that you've identified, we need additional help outside of yourself as the planner.
To some degree, yes. Like in particular, historic district.
Well, yeah.
That's a whole different specialty.
The other one that was of concern is the transportation plan. Now, I know you put the transportation, non-motorized transportation plan, I believe, in 28. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's a 2015 plan that we have that actually is not a very good plan even in 2015, because it doesn't really propose a vision for non-motorized transportation outside of the greenway throughout the city. And this is a hot topic, and there are a lot of opinions about it that have been expressed recently. But the question is, at some point in time, don't we need to put forth a vision so that when we're redesigning streets and rebuilding streets, that vision is taken into account in terms of making the city more bicycle and walking friendly. So I just put those two forward as two areas that if we need outside money and support, maybe they should be prioritized.
I wouldn't recommend doing a non-motorized plan. In today's world, we would do a active mobility plan.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. But,
Because you want to look at all forms of
yeah,
transportation.
but right now, for instance, when we do streets, correct me if I'm wrong, when we did Howard Street, there was a public open house
Yes.
where the plans were shown for Howard Street. Similarly, Kalamazoo, when it was done, there was an open house for Kalamazoo. But they're done as one-offs, not in keeping with an overall vision for what the flow of the city should be. And that's where I think we might miss some continuity going forward.
I agree.
So what are you suggesting, Charlie, that we move then,
I don't know.
move that from 28?
The first question is, what are our priorities as a planning commission? What do we want to be focused on? Once this zoning thing is off the table, which could be a while, but
Right.
once it's off the table, what are the other big rocks we want to start to move? And do we need money that should be reflected in the CIP in order to move those rocks?
We're gonna be, in 2026, we're gonna be finishing, hopefully, the zoning ordinance. We'll be dealing with the master plan update. And then maybe these two, historic study and sub-area plan for Ward 4. I see your point with if we had the active mobility plan, that might influence what happens for the sub-area plan for Ward 4, Emmett and Standish Corridor. In fact, there was even a bicycle path that was proposed in that area.
Well, it's already part of the plan.
Yeah.
It is also overlays into the water and wastewater system because they're redoing all the roads. And what he's saying, we could make the roads 2 feet wider to get that bike path in. You know, that's part of what we want them to be thinking about as they're doing this.
My reasoning for wanting to do the Ward 4 is that out of all of the wards in the city, that's the one that's going through the most transformation as quickly as possible.
Understood. I'm not minimizing the need for that.
And I think it's important that the planning commission really take a look at what further redevelopment is going to occur and what areas that we really need to focus on housing rehabilitation and public infrastructure. Just what's happened in the last 5 years there, it's been pretty transformational already. But I think that's the ward that's gonna see the most activity because it's the most affordable in the community. So that's one of the reasons why I thought it would be important next year for the planning commission to do a more detailed, a deeper dive into Ward 4 in terms of what those opportunities would be.
I think that's a very legitimate
I
problem.
think for 2026, we have a full plate. But maybe if the Mitchell State redevelopment plan, and I don't know what's being scheduled, but that's 85,000 and the non-motorized plan was 90,000.
That, because I anticipate that's gonna be an active mobility plan. And that you'll have to bring in an outside consulting firm that does traffic engineering.
What does that look like versus a non-motorized?
Well, it's more inclusive. It's not only bikes, it's pedestrian, it's public transit opportunities. It just involves all aspects of transportation in terms of activities. Non-motorized, primarily the one that was done in 2015 was sidewalks and bicycle routes. Active mobility is a lot more involved than that.
Well, and when you talk about traffic studies, aren't we gonna need a traffic study anyway for the sub-area plan for Ward 4?
No, not a detailed one. Maybe for the Mitchell Street corridor, because of the number of curb cuts that we have, the amount of traffic But
But with lofts and the block, we're not gonna need traffic analysis there.
I think we can probably internally, I don't think we need to bring in a traffic engineer to do any trip generation analysis and synchro modeling or anything like that at this point.
So is the Mitchell Street redevelopment plan more critical?
No, I think based on, I mean, you know, what Charlie's thrown out is probably legitimate, maybe switch the two. The Mitchell Street corridor is more of a long-range plan looking at redevelopment. You know, my personal feeling is that we're starting to end up with a lot of dysfunctional and obsolete buildings on that corridor. I mean, some are vacant already and hard to use. I can see a lot of that corridor in the next 10 to 15 years being just scraped away and rebuilt.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I wanna make sure that the community has a plan that talks about urban design in terms of how we want that corridor to really transform and be a little bit more pedestrian friendly and be a better gateway coming into the community than what it is. You just can't plant flowers out there.
I totally agree with that too. And again, it's a matter of priorities. We are going to continue, we need to continue to redo streets. And I want to make sure that as we do future redos of streets, that it's consistent with an overall plan and vision for the future, which I debate whether that's an active part of our decision-making now.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just saying, I think this would be an enhancement.
Yeah, and it is one of those things. You ride a bike, you know, down Kalamazoo Street, and good luck. You know, I ride my bike, and they don't want bikes on the sidewalks there. But, you know, when my son and I are riding our bikes to go play tennis at the high school courts, you know, and you've got cars parked on both sides of the street, and people are driving 40 miles an hour. I mean, it is dangerous. So,
Well, and
we could do better than what.
I
what
agree,
we've
I
done.
agree. I agree, and I anecdotally, I mean, I wasn't involved in the city affairs when that decision making was done, but as I understand it, it has to do more with traffic quieting,
Traffic calming.
traffic calming. And that's great, but only when you take into consideration the other forms of mobility and whether you're making their lives more difficult. So,
You can still have a bike lane outside of a parking street.
well, you can, as long as
You're going
when that
toward-
door opens
Yeah,
at the wrong
exactly.
time,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah, you gotta, like
and,
anything, you gotta. pay
and
attention.
if the sidewalk's not wide enough to accommodate, then
Yeah.
you're just endangering people as opposed to making people safer. Anyway,
So is there a consensus about dealing with Mitchell Street redevelopment plan? That sounds pretty important, but so does the non-motorized plan, so.
Well, I think based on the discussion that we're having, you probably want to switch the two.
Yeah, I agree.
Right here, this is 27. And then the other one is right here in 2028.
I also like the idea of waiting till the next year for the Mitchell Street. Because you can just see, as you've been on Emmett Street now, because of the development that's gone, other houses, you know, my wife always says you fix one house in the neighborhood and that makes other houses fix it. You see the transformation going on in Emmett Street and getting better because of the next area that really could do that is between Mitchell Street and Charlevoix Avenue. The housing in there is RM housing that's been around for a long time, and John showed us some great pictures of what looks nice RM housing being built, you know, but if we took pictures of some of the housing that exists in there, that housing needs some help. And if a redevelopment plan, we can do things like using the enterprise zone kind of things and look at housing in there, because that is some of the least expensive housing in town.
Yeah.
And I would think that if it give us another opportunity to not just look at redeveloping the commercial corridor, but the attached neighborhood.
That's it.
And so if you look from, you go Madison, Jackson, I own all the way up, all those streets that way, and that whole area is a big RM zone that needs help. So that, You know, I'm all for helping landlords make a better place. Because we do need rental places. I'd rather see that personally, that zone is already RM. Be developed than taking our traditional neighborhoods, our traditional residential neighborhoods and filling them up with quadplexes. At this point in time, I think I've said it before, I'm not 100% against quadplex and triplex in R1 and R2. But I would like to see us spruce up and develop our flex zone, which is R3 and our current RMs before we start adding quadplexes and triplexes to the historically limited multifamily housing areas. And so I think that having that discussion in 27 and adding, because I mean, that's a part of town that really could use and could really help housing. Because the better the housing is, more people are gonna live in Nebraska rather than live in Lansing if the housing is good. So it's people look at what they get for $800 on Jackson Street versus $800 a month at Lansing, and they say, well, I guess I could pay the fuel cost. But if we fix some of that up, I think that'll help. So I like the idea of changing that to next year, long story short, to switching those years.
Well, right now, the Mitchell Street redevelopment is scheduled for 2027.
Right.
And the active mobility plan is for 2028. And the discussion has been, we'll do the mobility plan first
Right. Gives
and
more
then
time.
do Mitchell. So
Right, give us more time.
we would be postponing Mitchell for 2 years.
Yeah, but also gives us time to look at that whole area.
Yeah.
By the way,
So is that consensus that
Yeah.
we switch them?
Cynthia, just real quick, after zoning with the most action items and strategies, the non-motorized plan was next with 8 mentions in the Living Petoskey. And the historic district came in with 6 just below that, so that we're on the right track.
I really like the idea of getting I think that getting the historic district is gonna be hard, and I think the sooner we get it started, the better. Because we are setting up our zoning ordinance for a historic district, so,
Historic overlay.
yeah,
I get it.
all right.
Just be part of the INL now generation.
All right, any other discussion?
Make a motion to the board.
Yeah. With those two
Take a
changes
motion to approve, to recommend approval to the planning commission with the revisions.
to the city
I
council.
recommend, yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend moving this to city council with our recommended changes.
Second.
Okay, Carolyn made the motion, Rob seconded, or Bob seconded, all in favor. I'll make this easy on Lisa, everyone voted aye. Okay. And we have.
Drum roll.
No, well, it's zoning ordinance updates for Article 6.
I did not have Article 6 in my packet, but it is, when I looked on the packet online. It's online,
And it's in the agenda.
it's in the agenda, but did you get it in the packet?
No, that's why I lost my copy.
Postpone it. This-
Darn.
I looked online today, it was online. Yeah, take a look. Yeah, okay. Right. So,
Did you have any?
I thought you were trying to save paper.
I didn't either.
Well, that's a bummer.
Like I
You
need
know,
another
we worked
copy.
hard so that I could get on the meeting today.
Take our word
Getting
for it.
better.
Just move forward.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I've got to know this most.
pretend you're looking at it right now.
All right, public comment?
Can I comment with that Article 6? Yeah, or not yet?
Oh, yeah.
So. I guess it's that comment on the full process, but so far as all these articles have come forward. We look them over and we're told, this is what the zoning committee has recommended so far. At no point as a body ever voted on any individual. Is that correct?
No, we haven't.
And so until they go to the lawyer, right, and come back. That's the point that the whole body will vote on the,
For the articles that we've completed thus far.
right, but we're not gonna do that till all the articles get,
You don't have a public hearing until all of the articles are
right,
in the draft,
In a draft that the lawyer is.
that the lawyer then reviews.
right. So we're not gonna vote on it as a body till after public hearing, and I'm just trying to understand the whole process. Cause things are going to lawyer, and yet if there's questions at the public hearings or there's questions on an article, is it gotta go back to the lawyer? That I'm just trying to.
This goes back to our original conversation about setting up a committee to begin with,
Right,
as opposed to trying to do this with the full planning
right,
commission.
I understand.
It would be appropriate for the full planning commission to go through every article thoroughly and have consensus that this is what the planning commission wishes to put forward after the review committee has given suggestions.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And before the hearing and before a legal review.
That's what I'm thinking. We should
So
look
it could
at,
be they should be discussed at some,
right, okay, that's what I'm saying.
which is what I thought was on the agenda for today.
Right,
So it should have been.
Right.
We've been working on for weeks.
Well, I have several copies of it. So
Yeah.
does that count?
Well, no, because they didn't get a chance to review it.
Right.
but just like Charlie said, the committee was supposed to try and hopefully have some reasonable ideas and make a reasonable draft. And then it comes to the whole commission
Okay.
to make their best shot at
Yeah.
the draft.
We're just trying to make things easier at the committee.
And I understand, to get all the grunt work done, so we're not all,
Hopefully.
we're not all words with time. But other than I've taken the time to be with at most of the committee meetings, there's 4 of us, 5 of us that aren't regularly at this committee. And just to make sure that we understand, before it goes to lawyer, it seems like we should be approving,
Right.
making that
So,
change.
going after chapter 6, then we are gonna be dealing with building height, the,
We do as a commission.
the residential, the districts, whether we're gonna consolidate. So those are big picture, and they're coming, we're not gonna do that at zoning committee level. That's coming here. So there's gonna be lots to discuss.
And all the definitions still have to come.
Would it be possible to forward the article to the members of the committee and ask for them to do red line versions with any questions or comments they have and send it back to Lisa so that we can review that more
Yeah,
efficiently? at the
the
next meeting?
ordinances, they've got lines,
Yeah,
Right.
so they can somebody can just type an email saying, line 235, change this word to this word.
Right, exactly, that's
so
all.
whether it's a red line or you collect it that
I
way.
apologize, like I said, it's online, packet online, I don't know why we didn't get it here, we'll have to find out internally.
But I would just caution, part of the value of the group is it's not at least
Is the interaction.
is it being a group. So Charlie might think of an idea that someone else didn't think of and
Unlikely.
it might impact them. So I always like when the whole group can hear what everyone has to say.
Just to clarify what the procedure is. The zoning committee does its job, which I think they're doing a great job of crafting the language. Then when they're satisfied with that article, then it comes to the PC. For the PC to go through and say, okay, I make some changes, then I go back and make those changes.
Right.
Then I set that aside and then we move on to the next article. When we get it all compiled, then I send it to the attorney. And then Laura or her associate will then provide us what they think, what their comments are. So then we can bring that back to the planning commission and we can see what the lawyer, what their comments are, because it may require some additional revisions. When that's all, we have a nice bow around it, then that's when we have the public hearing. And then after that step, then it moves on to city council.
At what point we've discussed the possibility of having the old document and the new document and a comparison of documents in between. At what point would that be done?
We will do that at some point. I cannot tell you how detailed it's gonna be because, well, the people that are on the committee know that we have really rewritten the code.
Absolutely.
I mean,
So
it's,
comparisons are difficult,
it's gonna be,
but
You know.
if we want it to pass, I think we need to provide the city council and the public with.
I think we'll give them a general overview of what the areas are that have been changed. But they
Well,
are,
you accomplished that in your PowerPoint.
well, that's what.
I was hoping
That's
for
kind of
something
what
more
he's
detailed than that.
intending.
I have all of every document we've had, and as that got updated, then I would retire that. I have the whole stack.
I understand.
So if somebody wanted to take that and go through,
And I
they
have,
could see the progress.
I have every edition by article. I have an archive that has every, when we started, all the way to when we're done. So if anybody wants to take a look at those 3,000 pages of paper with all the red lines that we did, they're welcome to do it. But what happens when you do a new code is that the attorney will write a ordinance that officially repeals the old code. And then they write an ordinance that enacts the new.
Understood. But we're gonna have people in the community gonna wanna know, did you get everything that was important to us in the old code? Is that included in the new code? And then they're gonna say, and by the way, which language has changed? And we're not gonna be able to tell
Oh,
them
no,
that.
we're not going to because it was such, it was such a.
That is a
It's not a
problem
redo.
that's looming.
It's not a rewrite.
I had a person. Talk to me, said, we gotta have this person.
I've had numerous people fill in my ear recently.
And not our favorite, not somebody that's on this all the time.
Yes.
Several people in town.
It'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting, it's gonna.
Okay, the one thing that I do want to talk to the planning commission about, to get some feedback in for the next steps. We are at a point where we're gonna start working on Article 2 and 3. 2 is reviewing each of the zoning districts, deciding if we want to keep them, if we don't, if we want to consolidate them, whatever. And then Article 3 is what land use is going to each of those districts.
Right.
Then there are the important issues that we talked about at the very beginning workshop that we had in April of 2024. And those are issues like, do we want to accommodate smaller lots? Do we want to accommodate duplexes, which we currently do, right? Are already permitted in many of the zoning districts. What about triplexes? What do we talk about building heights? There's a lot of issues. Okay, those are the issues that the community is usually most concerned about. They're not concerned about, do we require one parking space for every nursing home bed? They are gonna be concerned about size of lot, height in a neighborhood, number of parking stalls, whatever, those type of issues. The question I have for the planning commission, how do you think we need to start that conversation with the community? Do we start with a community survey that asks people what their perceptions are in terms of their tolerance factor and density on unit types, styles? Or do we have an open house where we have people come in and that are interested in the zoning and talk about what their impressions are? You guys are all spread out through the community. How do you think we should do it?
I think you would start off with like a whiteboard like you have downstairs already. And then you would move it into an open house. I think that would streamline the process and include everybody, give everybody the opportunity, regardless if they can't make it to the open house.
So start with a whiteboard in terms
Yeah,
of, explain it
so-
to me, Max, in more detail.
What you want, what do you want to see in this space? What does that look like for you? Just like urban planning tactics.
You're talking about like almost like a charrette?
Yeah.
Okay, people come in and they draw on a map or something like that, or,
Well, leave it downstairs, so it's always accessible during the day,
okay,
and then have sticky notes, with maybe some collages like you had.
Images.
Yeah,
okay,
you can, or a tag where you can.
okay.
I think people are gonna wanna know what's changing. And for us to put up for each of our current zones what things are, and then what they think about possible changes, would be important, because that's, you know, if people are concerned about density on either side, if they say it's not dense enough, we need more room for more apartments, or if they're concerned that if we increase density, it's gonna change the neighborhood. That, I think that's what people, you know, where we are now, where do we think we want to go, and what would you tolerate for change? I mean,
I think you're onto something. It seems to me that it might be initiated with like a work session where where it's laid out clearly what we have now and what is potential for change and input. And then invite the public to input either at that meeting or subsequent to the meeting, either online or on whiteboards or whatever. Give them a period of time to input suggestions. And then we can schedule meetings where the planning commission can hash out what its recommendations are. But I agree, John, that there should be some kind of public engagement before we get too far involved in that.
I think a survey would be the first step that I would adjust, so you can get ideas and have an understanding of, you know, data that's, you know.
Can you really survey them though before you explain to them what we've got, what we're looking for?
They can look around, they know what we have.
No, but I mean, in terms of the code itself, that's what I'm talking about.
People don't
The zones and the codes.
want to be,
More big picture.
I don't want to be too sarcastic about this, but people really don't get involved in zoning unless they come to it, to pull out a permit for their fence.
Exactly.
And then the zoning administrator says, well, wait a minute, we have setbacks. That's when they start figuring it out.
Right.
I mean, I've held public hearings before, and community engagements on zoning, and people just, they don't come. They don't get involved in zoning unless they're personally affected by it.
With them, but you gave them an opportunity.
But I think the approach is kind of like what Carolyn is saying, is really hearing from people how they define their neighborhoods. What are common physical characteristics they like about their neighborhood? Do they like the size of the lot? Do they like its sidewalk? Do they like the setbacks? Do they like the idea of front porches? It's kind of getting people to say, this is what I really like about my neighborhood. And then based on that, then you can start crafting your regulations around it.
Yeah. And then we start showing them things like this, pretty pictures, like this is what this area would be, this is what we're.
No, you know, I think, I don't know if I've talked to you
Silence.
about this analysis. About 3 weeks ago, I was down in Grand Traverse County talking to a community down there. And I had a bunch of people that were just adamant that they didn't want their land use map to show a suburban level of density, which was 3 to 4 housing units an acre, even though the area that they live in was 3 to 4 housing units an acre. So one of the people that was down there, I had asked them, I said, is a 7,500 square foot lot reasonable? Yeah, he goes, I live on an 8,000 square foot lot. I said, okay. And what if you had a accessory dwelling unit on your lot with your house? Would that be okay? Yeah, that'd be okay. I said, why don't you tell me what your density is? Well, it's 2. No, it's not 2. Your density is 12 units per acre. You got an 8,000 square foot lot, 2 units on it, do the proportion, it's around 11 to 12 units an acre. And they were dumbfounded. They thought, oh, it's just 2. No, it's not 2. You have to look at it on a per acre basis. So there's this concept of invisible density that people think, if you walk down the street here and you looked at Water Street condos, somebody would say that's dense. But across the street, if there's a house on a small lot that's got an ADU in a garage, they look at that and they don't think that's dense at all. But on a per acre basis, it's very close to what's across the street. See, so, but that's what I'm trying to get at. And get the community thinking about is, what are they comfortable with? So.
and that goes back to the have now, and, you know, so if you said, you know, in R2 right now, our density is probably a lot higher than we think it is.
Correct.
And so if you put that out, right now, the average density in R2 or R1 is. And, you know, is this appropriate? And then if that's appropriate, then we may not want it any more dense, or we may want it more dense, you know? So I still like that idea. I had another thought there.
I think what I could do, Max, to get what you're getting at is have a large map of the city, or at least areas of the city broken up on the boards. When people come into City Hall, we've been doing it at the library too, because they get a lot of traffic. We could ask people, put a thumbnail where you live and what board, where you live, and then write us a sticky note about what you like about your neighborhood. Not, you know, that type of thing. So we can start really figuring out what attributes people really relish about their neighborhood, and then we can codify it.
I think that's a good idea, John. I think we have to be careful. Density is a pretty abstract concept to most people. Even oddly enough, building height is, I mean, most people don't really know what the guy, I mean, I didn't know originally, what's the gable on your house? What height is that? What's your building height? I mean, they don't even know that. So we have to be careful. I like some of these things Blueprint Petoskey, there were some charrettes and visual things like, do you like this or this? Those kind of things would go like you said, what is your neighborhood? What do you like? It's gotta be real concrete what we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, and then ultimately, you're gonna try and get a direction, the planning commission, but, the rubber's gonna hit the road when you try and show people, well, we think we might wanna make this change. That's something people can say, okay.
Yeah.
How is it different from what I have now?
Yeah, I've got to,
Yeah.
we gotta put some,
Yeah.
we have to put some meat around the bone before we really take the roadshow out to the community. So
Right.
we gotta get some preliminary feedback from them to figure out exactly what people want. And then put some ideas together to say, is this what you're talking about?
Baseline.
We need a baseline, exactly.
Well, you can kind of guess though what the issues are gonna be based on what has happened around in other communities and what you read about the issues all across the country, something out there.
Yeah, but which is surprising me because we've been talking about, changing our zoning ordinance and we're working on it, but we haven't had that many people come into these meetings.
It's because they haven't seen a change.
There's nothing further than that. There's
We have about,
Right,
we probably have 40, maybe people that have signed up to get the periodic updates off the project website. Everything that the committee does is posted, not only the agenda, but the meeting summary. Then as the articles are done, they're posted. And then when we always have a meeting, we always send an e-blast out to everybody saying, hey, we're meeting at City Hall, second floor, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And we used to get, at the beginning, we got some people that came.
Yeah.
So what would you propose in terms of putting the survey out to? Just asking for people that wanted to participate in it like you did with Winter Sports Park, or would you go beyond that?
We probably.
News review, right? The survey? I was
Yeah, but-
posted.
What's in the news, or like you might as well shout it on the.
Our council
Look at everything.
persons can blast it.
Yes.
Our council persons can blast it in their informational updates.
Yeah, I mean,
There's only two council people that do informational updates.
well, I mean,
I'm more
we do it,
than Tina, so I get it.
we get it, you know,
Ward 3 does not do.
we could do it through the, like we did the Bear, or the Winter Sports Park. I worked with Shane and Sarah, and we put it in the utility bill.
Right.
And we got quite a few hits. As soon as the utility bills were out, we could see the responses. The nice thing about surveys now is that you can actually put photographs in and have like a visual preference survey. You know, what's your comfort level? You can say, pick what image out of these images that you really relate to, and they can click it, and then we get the analysis. So we could do something like that. I like Max's idea. We do get comments. You see some comments down on the tables, people coming in talking about that.
Well, like John too, when you've talked about triplexes and quadplexes, which a certain amount of people are gonna create anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
But you've been able to show, you know, historically, there will be some pictures where you will show what looks like every bit like a single family home. So then you can visually show people, this is a quadplex. Is that something?
Yeah.
Does that look okay?
Yeah,
You
and
know?
that's something we talked about at the zoning committee level, was having an umbrella term where a quad,
Multi-use.
yes.
Multi-unit dwelling.
So we don't
Multi-
have those
yeah,
words that
multi-
people get stuck on.
Excuse me, multifamily dwelling unit.
What's that, how's that different than RM then?
The multifamily dwelling unit,
How's that
it
different?
it's all encompassing. It's a duplex, a quadplex, a triplex. It just, there seems to be, a negative response to the word quadplex, triplex and so forth. So try to eliminate that and just,
But be very careful if you change the word, once people figure out, then some people will get even more mad. Like if you make it unclear what you're talking about.
well, in the definition, it'll say includes duplex, triplex and quadplex.
Well, I'll come back to the PC next month with a couple of samples for you to take out.
I would think also with surveys, just be careful that the park survey, especially when it went out with what they would want for its park, it was a concept. It was not the neighborhood.
Choose A or B.
Yeah, the neighborhood thought they were choosing whether or not to have a dog park in someone's backyard, just because of how it was put out.
Yeah.
So be very careful. And the dog park decision was already made. But we had more people at Curtis Park picnic than we've ever had before. Because what went out for a survey
Yeah.
was not
Oh,
well
right,
done. Was not well done. So just be careful. If you're gonna put pictures out, people are gonna take the pictures literally.
Oh, well, that's the purpose.
Right.
Visual preference survey, yeah.
I had one question. For the lumber lots in the Michigan maple block, what percentage of those are income based again? Like, people ask me like, one bedrooms are $1,400, the Michigan maple block.
Give you a copy of it. So it's a, where is, oh, here it is. It's a work in progress, but I've been faced with the same question.
Okay.
I think though, that what I suggested is that we create an inventory. Because, percentages is one thing, but I also want to transcribe those. Well, another one, sure, I got plenty. Else, thank you. But then there's this, which is a corresponding chart, and this chart simply takes the AMI for a county and translates it at different percentages that we've been talking about, 80%, 60%, translates it into the dollar rent that we're talking about, using 30% of your annual income as the traditional benchmark for establishing rental. So I just thought, sure. They're cheaper by the dozen.
Segue, I wanted to clarify an earlier statement that I made regarding the extension of the variance and my $1.5 million comment and the fact that normal people can't afford that. I'm by no means that I was trying to insinuate that I can afford that either, but it circumvents the process and extends the building period.
Yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll get some rents from, Lisa has got calls in to these various property owners to see what their asking prices are for the rents. We can fill it in. And once you get that, maybe you can include everybody in an updated version of the spreadsheet.
I can tell you that right now,
For each of these properties?
for the loss, I don't have.
Oh, I have
Yeah, I saw it's.
I don't
listed.
think you gave him a copy of that.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a copy of this?
City managers aren't supposed to get that information.
So, I did this because I haven't been able to answer people's questions as to what the real meat is here, how does this all flush out? And there are some, for going forward in terms of site reviews, the question does lend itself to, should these projected estimated rents and the percentages of units set aside for various levels of AMI, should that be a part of the analysis of the planning commission other than just what color it is? And that recommendation then provided to council for final decision. I think they're important elements that should be researched and included in recommendation, but there may be people that think it's outside of our lane.
I'm concerned.
We did discuss it with the block. I mean, it was
But
talked
we only
about.
got general,
Yeah.
Right,
and we didn't get any commitments.
Yeah,
So John, what do you say to that?
In terms of what?
Is that our purview
The
to
planning commission taking a look at the financials and the,
wanting to have a percentage?
Of how many units are set aside for what percentages of AMI?
always recommend that, but it's gonna come down to what the financial gap planning is for the project.
Right.
I mean, that's really between the city, really, when I say city, the city manager, city council, and the developer, in terms of whatever financial incentive package they're using.
So what you're saying, we could approve and have density all day long, but we're not guaranteeing affordable housing,
Right.
so.
No, it's not that we're guaranteeing affordable housing, we're just
No.
defining what the plan is.
I mean, you can ask the developer, and I'm sure at the Maple Block, they would have said that they were anticipating that some of the units will be targeted for less than 120% AMI, which is low odd. But at the time that they were here for the site plan or for the PUD, they wouldn't be able to tell you the specifics in terms of how many units, what the rents were gonna be, because that's part of the financial analysis that goes on later on in the
Yeah,
project.
well, I feel like we were like misled on. I feel like a part of it is they were providing the AMI housing.
what is it 10 years?
Yeah.
What's the number of years that?
It's all,
Lump,
102 of the units are 80 to 120.
Okay,
For the other.
For the lofts.
No, for.
for the block.
Oh, Maple Block?
Okay,
I have
thought-
that, I have those
At
numbers.
120,
Okay.
the rent is
Set them
two.
on. We know what that.
Well, that
I thought
needs
there
to
were
be,
years
that needs
attached
to be
to it.
fixed here, because I just took this out of the paper. It said hundred and two units for less than or equal to 120%, and 25 units for less than or equal
This would be
to.
a question for the manager. Shane, Matt asked the question, is there a time limit that they have to rent to based on AMI, then after a certain time limit, is it in perpetuity or is it?
It's as long as the brownfield tip is in place for those 22 years.
Okay,
So that's,
Depends on the program.
Yeah,
Each program is different.
every program is different,
so
so it's
Lumps was gonna be 40 years. Because of what the state,
Offices
in
in
perpetuity.
perpetuity.
yeah.
oh, it is, okay, I heard 40 years.
So it's, what I'm getting at, it's hard when the planning commission reviews a site plan for the developer to be able to tell you conclusively the percentages or the amounts, because it's all subject to financing later on down the process. I mean, Shane was working with the developers on Maple Block with the city council right up until they approved the agreements. So I mean, that was a ways after, a time after the planning commission had approved the PUD.
Yeah.
So,
Well, again, all housing is good. That's not the point. The point is, I'm just trying to understand what holes are left and
The
where
holes are
where we need to address.
60% AMI.
And below.
That's the whole.
Okay, it is a little past 8. Are we all ready to?
I appreciate
Let's
the
see.
conversation.
Yes. So were there any updates?
No.
All right. I would like to say thank you to Matt for his service.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
We're gonna miss you.
Yeah.
We got a lot of important things to do.
Yeah.
Keep right up your.
So you know what?
And this?
Down the road, if you get some, free up,
Yeah,
think about coming
yeah,
back.
yeah, it's been fun, thank you guys.
Yeah.
This was just for info?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that was requested, that is the Pacer map, Pacer rating, just understand there's a lot that goes into prioritizing road, it's not just simply like my road, Lindell, that stretch of Lindell is in terrible shape. But we also have utility issues. So, as we all know, utility work is very expensive, road works are very expensive, so you can only do so many different stuff. And then you need to take a breath, but. So it's not just the rating, it's also utilities under the ground, so if that gives you an idea. That's 23, we're gonna be driving the city, rating all the roads this fall again, so they'll be updated this fall.
So do you do similar ratings for utilities and,
Yeah.
so is there like an overlay to this in terms of?
We have utility map, water, sewer.
And you establish priorities to those as well?
Yeah.
So it's really a combination of 3 different priorities?
Yeah, we know where our undersized water is, we know where our super, undersized, so all that goes into the
So Pacer is just surface condition
Pacers.
and curb condition?
Yeah, just,
Got it.
road condition, it's not even rideability, which is what Jason has told me, on my trip to Lindell, it's like, but that's not, it's the cracking, it's the base work that's going on underneath the asphalt, so.
Cynthia, one other comment. Yes, that.
I just want to point out, this was put at your desk. This is homework. So look at the plan and fill out the thing and
What we're
turn
looking
it
at,
in.
the form is to mark off by number things that you don't like. Any activity that you don't prefer in part. Don't tell us, we're not asking what you like, tell us what you don't like.
Okay.
And then we'll use that along with the public input that we got last night. To put together a preferred master plan. If you could, after you get it filled out, as part of your homework, if you're coming by City Hall, drop it in the green mailbox. You know, where you put your utility bills. Sarah will pull them together and then she calls me up and I'll come over and get them. Because we had other people that were taking them home last night too, so.
Anybody want to stuff the ballot box?
Right, so if you guys can pass your name tags down. And Shane had.
Sorry, I meant to get this on your agenda and I apologize I didn't do that. I'll have Christine send those out, but I have scheduled a training for any board or commission that's interested in joining. This is not mandatory by any means, but I think it's valuable for any and all board and commission. So the legal counsel from Michigan Municipal League is coming up on October 27th. That's a Monday night. They're gonna be doing a training, essentially how everything meeting, so everything that's involved with running a public meeting, that's gonna be discussed. So it's like a 3-hour session. We're gonna start at 5:30 on that night. We'll have some snacks and such that we'll provide during the event. So October 27th, it's a Monday night. Yeah, we're gonna start it at 5:30. Again, this is not by any means mandatory. It's just, if it works out in your schedule, we'd love to have you join if possible. And we'll send that out so you have it.
So the 2 council meetings are the 6th and the 20th then for October?
Now, for October, it'd be the 6th and the 20th, so this would be a special meeting on the 27th.
What's the name again?
5:30.
What's it titled? Is it?
The title of their everything meetings, everything meetings. So this would be public meetings. They'll talk a little bit about, even though I'm gonna camp that down, you follow Robert's Rules of Order, but maybe not as strictly as others, but I think that still needs to be part of our discussion as well. What is appropriate? How do you engage in a public meeting? What's appropriate and may not be. I just think it's gonna be a nice refresher for everybody that may be interested, so.
What time is it, sir?
5:30. Yeah,
We'll get an email, right?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. I apologize, I should have had that in your packet.
Okay, so. Anything else? I adjourn this meeting at 13.